Discover 3 spine-chilling true horror stories of haunted places and cursed secrets revealed. Lisa's heart raced as she stared out her kitchen window into the oppressive darkness. The old house at the end of the street loomed like a ghost, its broken windows flickering with shadows that seemed to beckon her closer. It had been vacant for years, notorious in whispers as a place cursed by tragedy, but tonight felt different. When her neighbor called, breathless with panic over strange noises emanating from the house, Lisa's curiosity ignited. As she stepped outside, a cold wind rustled through the trees, a warning she ignored. She could hear the creaking of her own home behind her, the familiar sounds of her children, Alex and Emma, settling in for the night. But the house at the end of the street called to her, an otherworldly pull that tightened like a noose around her mind. "It's just an old house," she muttered to herself, yet her skin prickled with a sense of dread that clung like fog. She stepped carefully over the cracked pavement, its texture rough beneath her feet. As Lisa approached the porch, the air thickened. A flickering light caught her eye, casting eerie shadows that danced around her. A shiver ran down her spine. She hesitated at the creaking stairs but pressed on, each step echoing as if the house itself held its breath. What was she getting herself into? Inside, the air turned bitter and cold, wrapping around her like barbed wire. Back home, the atmosphere crackled with unease. Alex rolled his eyes as she recounted the bizarre sounds. "Mom, you're just tired from work," he scoffed. Emma, on the other hand, kept glancing at the empty hallway. Her playful demeanor vanished. Lisa tried to shake off the feeling that they were being watched, but the weight in her gut only grew heavier. Then the whispers began. Soft, unsettling sounds that seemed to weave through the very walls of their home. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, and the air chilled around them. Lisa's determination to investigate deepened, leading her to local archives. She pored through old news clippings, scanning tales of disappearances tied to the cursed house, a lineage steeped in dark rituals and a malevolent force that preyed on the vulnerable. Each revelation twisted her stomach tighter, her resolve hardening even as fear threatened to unspool her mind. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Soon, Lisa felt cornered by unseen forces. The once friendly face of Mrs. Grayson, the neighbor who helped her so often, turned sinister in her mind as questions whirled. Could she be part of this curse? Shadows in her home twisted into mocking laughter, urging doubt into Lisa's heart. Alex started to pull away, his respect for her wavering, while Emma hid in her room, terror written in her wide eyes. As the confrontation loomed, Lisa stood at the threshold of darkness. What had she awakened by prying into those forgotten secrets? The house seemed to pulse with a life of its own, its whispers growing louder and more insistent, demanding an answer. Could she protect her children, or had she unwittingly opened a door to horror that could consume them all? The heartbeat of the house quickened, and just as she braced for the impending chaos, the door creaked open, shadows spilling forth like a flood. What awaited them on the other side could be their salvation or their doom. The door swung open, revealing an inky blackness that seemed to swallow light. Lisa stared, her breath caught in her throat. She could barely move, frozen by a mix of fear and disbelief. Each second stretched, heavy with the weight of possibilities that unraveled in her mind. What could lie beyond? "Mom?" Alex's voice broke the spell, dragging Lisa back to reality. "Are you okay?" She blinked, trying to focus. I don't know." The whispers grew louder, echoing from the darkness, and she realized they weren't just in her head. They were real, swirling around her like a sinister fog, beckoning her to step closer. "Lisa." The urgency in Alex's tone pushed her forward, out of the paralyzing grip of fear. She found her footing and took a tentative step into the shadowy abyss. Alex and Emma exchanged worried glances but quickly followed, the door grating shut behind them with a finality that made Lisa's heart race. Inside, the air was stale, foul and thick, as if suffocating. The faint flicker of a dying bulb swung overhead, casting grotesque shadows that twisted and snapped at the corners of the room. "Mom, we should get out of here," Alex urged, his voice trembling. "This isn't a good idea. But we have to know. We need to see," Lisa insisted, though doubt flickered in her chest. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but her resolve was steeled by desperation. Whatever haunted this place had taken hold of her family. She could feel it. It hung heavy like a shroud, the whispers morphed into laughter, high and screeching, dancing around her ears. Emma's small hand clutched at Lisa's arm, her knuckles pale. "What are they saying?" she whispered, eyes wide with fright. "I don't know," Lisa replied, forcing calmness into her voice. "Stay close to me." As they moved deeper into the house, excitement mingled with dread. Dust motes floated through the stale air, and Lisa felt the eyes of the old house on them, a predatory gaze that tore away the comfort of their family. They stumbled into the living room, remnants of the past scattered everywhere, broken furniture, old newspapers yellowed with age, and pictures of families long forgotten. One photo caught Lisa's gaze, a happy family standing in front of a bright yellow house. She blinked, a chill racing across her skin. The house resembled their own but for the creepy shadows writhed along its walls. "Mom, look!" Alex pointed to a dusty mantel. "There's something written there." Lisa approached, an unsettling apprehension prickling her skin. The words are faint, almost obscured by the dust, but she could make them out. "Leave before it takes you suddenly." A loud crash reverberated through the house, echoing like thunder. It sent a jolt of ice through her veins. They spun towards the noise, shadows swirling faster, the air thickening into a palpable panic. "Get back!" Lisa yelled, pushing her children behind her instinctively. She felt the air tighten, a presence looming. Something was angry, its breath hot against her neck. As panic surged through Alex and Emma, Lisa turned, desperation igniting her courage. "We need to get out now." No sooner had she said it than they heard a rustling sound from behind them, sinister and deliberate. With terror ricocheting in their hearts, they bolted toward the door, but the thick shadows coalesced into a figure, blocking their exit. What do you want?" Lisa stammered, panic stealing her breath. The entity shifted and twisted, a blurred mass of malevolence, its laughter echoing like a fractured bell, taunting her. In that moment, Lisa realized, they hadn't just come to investigate a cursed house. They had come to face a darkness that had chosen them, that would stop at nothing to ensnare their souls. But just as hope began to fade, a blinding light snapped into existence, slicing through the darkness. The entity shrieked a sound that seemed to shake the very foundation of the house. "Run!" Lisa screamed, clutching her children tightly as they plunged back toward the entrance, shadows clawing at their heels. Would they escape the clutches of the entity? Or was the darkness merely biding its time, waiting for the right moment to strike? Only seconds remained, the threshold to freedom inches away, yet the shadows writhed with unholy life, hungry for their fear. The chill of despair clung to them as they neared the door, but would it open for them? Would safety await, or were they about to cross a line from which there would be no return? The door loomed ahead, a desperate beacon of hope flickering against the unyielding darkness that surrounded them. Lisa felt her chest tighten as they sprinted, the sound of their racing hearts deafening in the suffocating silence, interrupted only by the echo of that malevolent laughter. Each step felt like a plea for salvation, but the shadows clawed at their heels, a sinister promise not to let them go. "Mom, hurry!" Alex urged, his voice a frantic whimper. "We can't stop." Emma gasped, her small legs pumping furiously. As they closed in on the door, the entity's grip seemed to tighten around them, pulling at their limbs with spectral fingers. Lisa strained to push through the suffocating weight of dark energy, but it was as if the house itself wanted them to remain inside, an uninvited guest entrapped by its very essence. They reached the door, but it was heavy and unyielding, as if bolted shut. Panic surged through Lisa. She pounded against it, desperation clawing at her throat. "Open! Please, open!" Suddenly, the laughter shifted to a shrill wail, echoing painfully in her ears. The shadows danced violently, turning thick and angry, swirling to form an obscured face, full of contempt and fury. It lunged forward, a dark mass intent on dragging them back into its depths. "Mom!" Alex shouted, tears streaming down his cheeks, but Lisa could only scream as the figure coiled toward them, a pitch-black serpent ready to strike. With a final heave, Lisa shoved against the door with all her might. It burst open as though awaiting their arrival, a blinding light spilling out, radiating warmth that almost felt like safety. Without thinking, she grabbed her children, pulling them through the threshold. They tumbled across the threshold, breathless, their bodies crashing onto the grass outside. The sharp chill of the night air met their frantic gasps, rousing them from the torment that had threatened to swallow them whole. As they lay there, panting, Lisa dared to look back at the now looming house, then she saw it. The shadows had not dissipated, they twisted at the windows, writhing like tortured souls trapped in an eternal dance of agony. The laughter returned, distant yet piercing, a twisted farewell that sent fresh chills racing down her spine. "We need to go," Alex cried, scrambling to his feet, dragging Emma along. Lisa pulled herself upright, heart racing with both relief and dread. "Where do we even go?" she whispered, glancing around wildly. The familiar street felt alien and threatening, the darkness bleeding into the world around them. "Let us just get away from here," Emma whimpered. They moved in a huddled group down the street, fear pushing them forward with every nervous glance back. Each footfall was haunted by the memory of what they had just witnessed, shadows still clawing at the periphery of her vision. The lights of their village twinkled in the distance, but dread settled heavy in Lisa's stomach. That house had not just been a house, it was something alive, something that now had a stake in them. "Mom, do you think it'll follow us?" Alex asked, fear creeping into his voice again. I don't know," she stammered, her mind racing. They had escaped, but had they truly left it behind? As they reached the edge of the village, a faint scream echoed from the direction of the house. It rang out, a haunting, keening sound that echoed 1,000 unfulfilled promises. The very ground beneath them shook lightly, rippling with something ominous. "We can't stop," Lisa urged again, her voice insistent, but as they turned to flee, something moved in their peripheral vision. Flickering lights shot through the shadowy house, shapes twisting, morphing into familiar forms. The sight made her blood run cold. The photo of the family they had seen inside, staring back at her from the darkness with eyes full of sorrow and malice. "Mom! We have to go back!" Emma cried, her small hand pointing toward the house, terror knitting her brow. But the truth settled into Lisa's bones like ice. They were not just haunted by the entity, they were intertwined with its curse. The whispers behind them grew louder, more distinct. "Help us," they seemed to chant, echoing with hungry desperation, clawing at the corners of her sanity. "Run! Don't look back!" Lisa shouted, but she knew too well, some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed. Ahead, the lights of the village blurred, and she could only hope they'd escape the grip of the shadows. In her heart, she understood the fight was far from over. What if the entity was not finished with them? As they fled into the night, a chilling thought gripped her. What if the darkness had followed them, hidden in the folds of their reality, just waiting to strike when it was least expected? The road beckoned towards unknown terrors ahead, the darkness hungry for more than just their fear. What awaited them on this path? Could they outrun the shadows forever? Lisa stumbled forward, the grip of fear heavy in her chest. The moon hung ominously overhead, but the familiar glow felt muted, drowned by the dread that pulsed in the air. With every labored breath, she glanced at her children. Their faces pale and pinched mirrored her own terror. "Mom, I can't," and Alex's voice quivered. Just keep moving," she urged, pushing them onward. The village loomed closer, lights flickering like distant beacons against the gathering storm of anxiety. With every step, the shadows seemed to stretch and wobble, ready to consume them at any moment. She had to believe they were almost safe, but moments of doubt slithered into her mind, coiling tightly around her thoughts. Had the house truly let them go? Or was it merely biding its time, waiting for them to lower their guard? They turned the corner, and the faint hum of the village grew louder. Giggling children echoed from the playground, a jarring contrast to the dark weight pressing down on them. It felt strange comfort mingled with dread. What if other families had suffered the same fate? What if the entity could reach beyond those walls? Mom Emma's small voice pierced her thoughts. Lisa knelt, staring into her daughter's wide, fearful eyes. "What is it, sweetie?" "I saw them, the people in the house. They were looking for us," Emma whispered, her voice barely rising above the rustling leaves. Lisa's heart slammed hard against her ribs. "What do you mean?" They were trying to help us," Emma continued, her eyebrows knitting in confusion. "But it wasn't really them. It was dark." "Dark?" Alex echoed, his grip tightening on Emma's hand. "Yes. Mom, I felt it in my head." "They wanted us to come back," Emma said, trembling. "No one wants us to go back," Lisa said firmly, her heart racing. But doubts bubbled under the surface, doubt that the shadows might still be whispering for them, trying to lure them back into that darkness. "We just need to get to the station. Help will find us. We'll be safe there." As they quickened their pace, a shiver raced through Lisa. The laughter from the house, once a sweet sound, looped back into her memory, twisted and wrong. Retracing their steps, they wove between the familiar streets now cast in an unfamiliar shadow. Just past the park, a flicker of movement caught Lisa's eye, a fleeting figure darting behind a tree. Her breath stuttered in her throat. "Did you see that?" she whispered, her heart pounding as the memory of the dark mass haunted her. I don't want to," Alex cried, fear pooling in his voice. "Keep walking," Lisa urged, her skin prickling as another shadow darted, flickering like a candle flame about to go out. Then, as if drawn to the chaos, the laughter returned. It rolled through the air, chilling and mocking a warped reflection of the joy from the playground. It echoed low and menacing, wrapping around them like a serpent. "Mom!" Emma shrieked, stumbling back, her eyes wide. In that instant, the shadows converged, forming shapes that shifted and twisted towards them. Memories whirled around, faces and voices beckoning them back to the depths they had just fled. The entity had not just awakened, it was enraged. "We have to run," Lisa yelled, lunging forward. They tore away, the houses blurring past. The laughter morphed into shrieks, crescendoing with their panic, a crescendo of despair clawing at their minds. What would they have to face next in this seemingly safe haven? They raced down the street, sprinting towards the distant lights, but deep down, dread festered. The shadows were relentless. As they reached the edge of the village, Lisa glimpsed an unusual flicker in the dark. An empty corner store's window glowed ominously with crimson light. It beckoned her, a stark contradiction to their instincts. Her gut twisted as she squinted closer, afraid of what she might see. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind them, sharp and entreating, "Stay with us." Her heart stopped. The shadows lay in wait. How could they escape the darkness buried deep in the recesses of their lives? Would they find a way to sever the cursed link, or had they unwittingly invited the darkness to follow? The air thickened with an almost tangible dread as they sprinted towards the glowing window. The crimson light pulsed like a heartbeat, casting long, trembling shadows that tangled around Lisa's feet. She hesitated, her instincts clashing with the primal need to find refuge. The voice echoed again, hollow and haunting, "Stay with us." "Mom, don't look back," Alex gasped, pulling Emma along as they raced to the corner store. But Lisa's thoughts churned like a storm, clashing against one another. What if the store held some clue? Maybe it was a chance to turn the tide. Just a moment. She barked, buying time as she skidded to a stop, her children close behind. They trembled, eyeing the light with fear-laden expressions. The world faded around them, the laughter growing distant, shifting to a menacing whisper, calling their names. As she pushed the door ajar, the rusty hinges screamed. Inside, darkness hugged every corner, the crimson glow illuminating scattered shelves and dust-laden boxes, the air thick with the smell of decay. "Mom," Emma whined, her small voice breaking the suffocating silence. "Stay close," Lisa whispered, her heart drumming a terrible rhythm. The shadows flickered restlessly, twisting in the corners of her vision. She felt the weight of unseen eyes watching, lurking just beyond reach. Each pulse of light seemed to breathe, as if the store was alive and breathing in tandem with her fear. "Why do I feel so wrong?" Emma pressed, shivering against her mother's side. Just keep moving," Lisa urged, half trying to push them towards the back, where a door lay ajar, revealing a dark hallway lined with forgotten memories. The further they stepped in, the more vivid the whispers became. They bounced off the walls, wrapping around them, eviscerating her protective facade with each soft, taunting syllable. She heard snippets, fragments of laughter, sharp cries, and then, a chilling lullaby that stirred something deep within her, memories that didn't belong to her. "Mom! I don't like this." Alex's voice broke through the haze of sound, panic sweeping his words. "Neither do I. Let us just look for a way out." Lisa shot back, pulse racing. They edged forward slowly, each creak of the floorboards accentuating the sounds that beckoned them to stay. The shadows flickered again, converging briefly before retreating as if reconsidering. Suddenly, a picture fell from the wall, a dusty frame containing a photo of a familiar family. They wore eerie smiles that sent chills through her bones, yet they looked oddly like her own outfits, features, everything but ages older, draped in shadows that devoured the light. "Mom, I don't want to be here," Emma wailed, pressing against Lisa, who felt a chill creep under her skin. "Neither do I, sweetie. But we can't be afraid," she broke off as a heavy silence sank in around them. The voice returned, low and malicious, "You're home now forever." Panic surged as the air grew acrid. The shadows moaned, closing in. Lisa backed away, desperate to escape, tugging her children behind her. The shadows surged forward, reaching, grasping, hungry for their fear. "Run! Now!" Lisa yelled, yanking the door open as darkness clawed at her heels. They burst back into the street, the chilling laughter now louder, echoing in their ears. But the village lay ahead, the lights flickering as if watching, judging their every move. They sprinted deeper into the heart of the village, but despair gripped Lisa's throat. She couldn't shake the feeling the darkness wasn't just a thing, they were entwined with it now. Suddenly, the ground shuddered beneath them. The stores, the houses all began to distort, warping, twisting as though they were made of smoke and mirrors. "Mom! What's happening?" Alex screamed, stumbling as the world shook violently around them. "Hold on tight." Lisa grabbed their hands tightly as she sensed the shadows closing in, blending with the chaos around them. The village was morphing into something unrecognizable, swallowing them whole. With a final burst of energy, they darted toward the flickering lights ahead, but a dark figure loomed, silhouetted against the glow, a sentinel of the night. Lisa froze, dread curling in her stomach. "What have you brought to us, little ones? You're but steps away from home," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. Lisa's heart sank. They were not just fleeing a house, they were caught in something far more sinister, an unrelenting darkness that had marked them. Would they find the strength to sever this tether, or would they be drawn into the shadows forever? The figure stepped forward, its features shrouded by a heavy, inky fog. Lisa could barely discern its face, but the glint of eyes pierced through the darkness and gripped her heart with icy desperation. She tugged at Alex and Emma, trying to pull them back, but it was too late. The figure bent low, whispering sweetly, "Come closer, I promise you won't feel a thing." "Mom!" Alex cried, stumbling as the world around them twisted and warped. The shadows crept forward, a thick, living darkness that churned like smoke, hungry, eager. Lisa could feel the dread tightening around her chest. "Don't listen to it," she hissed, her voice trembling. Together they backed away, but the shadows danced along the edges of her vision, taunting her with promises of peace. She gritted her teeth, forcing her mind to focus. "We need to find somewhere safe. Come on." With no other choice, they turned and ran deeper into the village, the laughter echoing behind them like a taunt, pulling at the fraying nerves of their sanity. Shadows flitted across the alleyways, shapes twisting into nightmares that stirred within her. Destructive memories clawed at her mind, the time they visited the old house, the chilling unease that had enveloped her since then, now magnified 1,000-fold. "Mom, I can't run anymore," Emma sobbed. Fear rattled inside Lisa like chains, each breath was labored. She turned, urgency burning in her gut. The alley stretched endlessly, wrapped in darkness and shadows that whispered too intimately. "Emma, please. Just a little further." They stumbled into an open square, but instead of relief, it felt like stepping into a trap. Flickering lanterns cast terrified faces of the villagers who seemed frozen in time, their eyes wide with fear and their mouths stretched in silent screams. How could this be? Were they alive or merely echoes of something sinister? "Look!" Alex shouted, pointing to a crumbling fountain at the center. Water gushed out, glimmering under the sickly glow of the lanterns. But as she looked closer, it was not water that flowed. It was dark and viscous, bubbling with a life of its own. "Stay away from there," Lisa warned, pulling her children close as a disgusting stench wafted toward them. The very lifeblood of the village seemed tainted, pulsating as if hungry. The laughter grew louder, almost crowing a chilling song of despair. "What do we do?" Alex whispered, his brave face cracking under the pressure. "We find a way out," Lisa replied, scanning the area frantically. The airy laughter shifted to a dissonant chorus, wrapping around them like tendrils. "We need to go back. We have to." Before she could finish, the ground trembled violently. The shadows, once merely lurking, surged forward, morphing into ash-gray tendrils that snatched at the edges of her clothes, trying to pull her away. "Mom!" Emma screamed, her little hands slipping out of Lisa's grasp. "Emma! No!" She lunged, catching her daughter's wrist just in time, but the shadows became relentless. They twisted around her legs, dragging her backward, their grips tightening like cold snakes. I can't hold on," Emma cried, horror swelling in her eyes. "Don't let go. Don't let go." With sheer ferocity, Lisa pulled against the tide of darkness, fear pushing her as she fought against the cold, relentless hands. "Help us." But their cries were swallowed by a fitting silence. They were wholly alone, ensnared in a web of shadow and dread. Despair tightened Lisa's throat as the figure returned, now floating closer, melding with the shadows. "Ah, but you've brought such delightful spirits with you," it hissed, reaching out. "They belong with us forever." In one swift moment, Lisa shoved against the pull of darkness and sprinted toward the fountain. Desperation surged through her, driving her to unleash every ounce of strength she had left. Her children were worth it, but just before she reached the fountain, the world shifted again, collapsing beneath her feet. Time stretched and warped, unveiling glimpses of those who had vanished before, laughter turning into howls, shadows morphing into faces, some familiar, some not. "Mom!" Alex's voice broke through the chaos, panic setting in as they were separated. "Stay with me. We can make it. Run." Just as the shadows reached out to envelop her, a blinding light surged through the darkness. Lisa turned, heart hammering. Was it hope, or the beginning of something worse? "Mom!" Look out! As the light flickered and faded, they faced an unseen enemy far more dangerous than the dark. What lay ahead would test them in ways they never imagined possible. Would they emerge from the depths of this nightmare or become part of the village's grotesque legacy? The light pulsed, illuminating the writhing shadows that crawled like a swarm intent on snuffing out that fragile glow. Lisa's heart raced as she realized the brightness wasn't their salvation, it was merely highlighting the horrors they faced. Ghostly faces emerged from the darkness, each one twisted in agony, mouths opening in silent screams. The laughter crescendoed, filling the air with the sound of their torment. "Mom!" Alex's tiny voice pulled her back into the moment. She blinked away the surreal images, focusing on the frantic faces of her children. "Stay together!" she yelled, feeling a surge of protective instinct. They stumbled backward, the laughter clawing at their sanity, vicious and mocking. The shadows closed in, eager tendrils reaching for their souls. "Mom, what is going on?" Emma whimpered, her small frame trembling beside Alex. "I don't know, but we have to keep moving." Lisa's words spilled out in desperation. "Follow me." She made a break for the edge of the square, where the light flickered dimly, a war against the encroaching darkness. They darted toward an alley that seemed to breathe shadows. Every step echoed with dread, but the pulse of the light accompanied them, casting eerie silhouettes against the walls. Lisa could feel the shadows lashing out, almost sentient, hungry for the trio. "Where to, Mom?" Alex pleaded, glancing back as the mocking laughter grew louder, closing the distance. "Anywhere but here," Lisa shouted. They reached a doorway weathered, warped. It beckoned like a forgotten refuge. "You think it's safe?" Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. "We don't have a choice," Lisa replied with a resolve she barely felt. She pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like a dying animal. Darkness yawned wide and swirled around them, swallowing the light. Inside, the air was thick with age and despair. Faded wallpaper peeled in layers, revealing a sad history trapped within these walls. The only sound was the distant echo of their breaths. "Mom?" Alex ventured, his voice quivering. "Stay close," she urged again. The fear coursed through her, chilling her bones. They crept further inside, each step reverberating with despairing energy. Shadows lingered around the edges of her vision, ready to ensnare them once more, and then they saw it, a mirror standing alone against the far wall, its surface marred and cracked, as if it had witnessed too many tragedies. "Look at it," Emma whispered, both frightened and curious. "Don't stare too long," Lisa warned. Memories of caution swirled in her memories. Never gaze too long into something that collects souls. But Emma was drawn in, stepping closer. "What do you see?" "Just a reflection." Lisa felt a leaden weight on her chest as the shadows grew restless, writhing around the mirror, shifting like angry serpents. "Step back, Emma. Please." All at once, the mirror shimmered. Their reflections warped, twisting grotesquely as if they were laughing back at them. Lisa's heart pounded. The shadows lunged forward, pulling her son's image into the depths of the glass, which now resembled a darkened portal. "Alex!" Lisa screamed, lunging forward. But the shadows twisted around her feet, dragging her back, their grips fierce and unyielding. "Don't fight it. We're meant to be together," came a whisper from the mirror, a hollow echo that sent cold terror skittering down her spine. "No! Get away from my children." With a force of will, she triggered memories of love, warmth, and life. The push of those feelings felt like a barrier against the haunting darkness, flickering with hope. "Hold on. I'm coming." Just as she reached to grasp Alex's hand, the shadows surged, laughter erupting like thunder. The mirror twisted, warping the space around them, and then light collided with darkness in a blinding explosion. Lisa squeezed her eyes shut, expecting the end. When she opened them again, she was back in the square, the fountain still bubbling with that ghastly ooze. Gasping for breath, she turned, scanning the area frantically. Alex. Emma. But they were gone. The shadows pulled back momentarily, leaving only traces of their laughter echoing in the empty square. She stood alone amongst the frozen faces of the villagers, the weight of despair suffocating. In that moment of silence, she realized, maybe the village was longing for the children, not to torment them, but to join them in their cursed fate. Mom. Help. The scream pierced through the fog of despair, coming from somewhere deep within the twisting alleyways. It was a desperate plea. Drenched in panic, running forward, Lisa felt the shadows shift once more, this time, whispering familiar secrets, weaving promises of what lay ahead. The chase was on, but who would survive the darkness? Her pulse quickened. What awaited her at the end of the alleys? Would she find her children or become part of the village's malevolence? The dark alley swallowed Lisa, each step a battle against the unseen forces clawing at her heels. The scream echoed again, more frantic, echoing against the brick walls like a trapped bird desperate for freedom. Alex. She shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. Emma. The shadows rippled around her, thickening with every frantic pulse of her heart. She could feel them, close and ready to pull her back into their twisted embrace. The alley twisted and turned like a labyrinth, each corner revealing nothing but an encroaching void. Mom. Please. The cry was faint, muffled, but she pressed on, fueled by a desperate will to find her children. Distant laughter teased the edges of her mind, a sinister lullaby that sent icy chills racing down her spine. The shadows seemed to shift and stretch, forming grotesque shapes that flickered just out of sight. Faces twisted in mockery glimmered momentarily in the dimness, familiar faces that sent her heart racing even faster. Don't look. Don't look, she murmured to herself, refusing to be drawn into their hypnotic pull. Turning sharply, she stumbled into a small passageway that branched off the main alley. Here, the laughter fell silent, replaced by a thick, suffocating stillness, as if the air held its breath. The dim light filtering through the cracks above painted the scene in unsettling shades of gray. The deep darkness beckoned her, a void that felt alive, whispering secrets that made her skin crawl. She hesitated, recalling the gaping mirror, the way it twisted reality, turning the familiar into the grotesque. Stay together. Fight it, she whispered, planting her feet firmly on the aged stone floor. But then she saw it against the wall, a flicker of movement. A figure, small and trembling. Mom. Alex. Relief surged through her, aching and raw. But her smile faltered as he melted into the darkness again, the shadows swallowing him whole. No! She cried, lunging forward. But the floor buckled beneath her, shifting and heaving, a living thing determined to keep her from the truth. The shadows pulsed, mocking her, their laughter a visceral sound that burrowed into her skull. Help! Lisa grabbed at the wall, fingers slipping. She caught herself just as a wave of darkness surged forward, rushing towards her in a hungry tide. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing her mind to focus. Find the light. With a sudden surge of energy, she broke free from the shadow's grasp, propelling herself through the narrow passageway. The air thickened around her as she pressed on, every ounce of hope fragile yet burning brighter than despair. A sliver of light began to creep into view, glimmers peeking around the edge of a door at the end of the passage. Her heart raced, every nerve ending alive with urgency. Alex. Emma. But the laughter, it returned, louder, more chaotic than before, swirling around her like a cyclone of terror. She dashed for the door, fingers fumbling at the old handle, ready to wrench it open. Just then, a figure loomed behind her, blocking her escape. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, unsettling and merciless. A knowing grin spread across its face, a twisted mirror of Lisa's deepest fears. You cannot save them, it whispered, voice like gravel. The shadows danced wildly, waiting for her next move, eager to drag her back into the depths. Get away! She shouted, adrenaline surging. I won't leave without my children. With a final determination, she swung the door open. The light spilled into the darkness, but as she stepped through, the shadows lunged, eager to reclaim her. Had she escaped or merely walked deeper into the trap? As she crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind her, sealing her in a blinding brilliance. The laughter collapsed into silence. But in that stillness, she heard them again. Mom. The blinding light enveloped Lisa, its brilliance stinging her eyes as she stumbled into the new space. Panic surged, blocking her thoughts like a concrete wall. Alex. Emma. She screamed again, her voice trembling with desperation. Silence swallowed her words, a suffocating blanket that pressed down on her. As her vision cleared, she found herself in a dimly lit room, the walls lined with mirrors that twisted reality in bizarre angles. The air felt heavy, thick with something she couldn't name. She shivered, her breath becoming a cloud of fog in the chill that seeped through her skin. Mom, where are you? A whisper, so faint yet so close, sent a thrill of dread rushing through her veins. Was it Alex? Or was it a trick of the shadows, trying to ensnare her again? Movement caught her eye. A figure stood at the far end of the room, barely illuminated, its outline wavering like a mirage. Heart racing, she approached cautiously, each step echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. Alex? Is that you? She called, hope battling fear within her. The figure turned, its face obscured, swirling in a haze that reminded her of the nightmare mirrors she fled. I need help, Mom, the voice said, familiar yet distant, echoing like a lost child's cry. Hold on, I'm coming. She replied, propelling herself forward. But as she reached for him, the figure evaporated into mist, vanishing before her eyes. A shriek erupted from somewhere deep within her, a raw sound that mixed pain with panic. Come back! She yelled, pulse pounding like a frantic metronome. The mirrors trembled, reflecting her wild expression, distorting her features into monstrous shapes. She recoiled, the room shifting beneath her as if the walls themselves were alive. Shadows crept back, whispering in a language she couldn't comprehend, dark figures moving, teasing her senses. Mom, the voice again, but this time it chilled her even deeper. It wasn't just Alex. No. No. This isn't real. She gasped, shaking her head fiercely, wanting to wake from this nightmare. But the laughter returned, a cacophony of derision echoing in her ears, drowning out her thoughts. The knots in her stomach twisted tighter. Suddenly, one mirror brightened, a glimmer of light cutting through the oppressive darkness. Lisa squinted at the reflection, and horror washed over her. Instead of her own image, she saw Alex staring back at her, his little face pale and drawn. He was trapped, eyes wide with terror, his lips moving in a silent scream. Get away from him! She shrieked, lunging towards the mirror's surface. Her hands hit glass, cold and unyielding. She pressed her forehead to it, desperate to break through. But the shadows tightened their grip. You're too late, they taunted, their voices layered, an unnerving chorus of malice. Please, she begged. Tears of fury mixed with fear streamed down her cheeks as she pounded on the surface. Through the haze, Alex's image began to fade. With a surge of anger, Lisa threw herself back, refusing to succumb to the darkness that clawed at her edges. She would not let them win. She had come too far. Hold on, kids! She shouted, her voice hoarse. I'm coming. The room quaked as if responding to her declaration. The glass froze for a fleeting moment, and Lisa sensed that a shift was taking place. The laughter transformed into high-pitched wails of despair. With newfound determination, she turned to the other mirrors, ready to find a way through this maze of horrors. But beneath her feet, the floor split open suddenly, revealing a staircase disappearing into the darkness below. Her heart raced. Was this the way to save them? Mom! Came the haunting echo of her children again. She steeled herself, knowing she had no choice. She stepped towards the abyss, her breath caught in her throat as she took the first step down, darkness swallowing her whole. What awaited her below? Would she find her children or something far worse? Lisa stumbled down the staircase, her heart pounding with every step. The air grew heavier, thick with dread and anticipation. The ground sloped beneath her feet, shifting like sand, and shadows twisted along the edges, eager to ensnare her. Each whispered echo of her children left a hollow ache in her chest, and she felt the darkness tightening its grip around her as she descended further into its lair. A faint glow illuminated the path ahead, drawing her like a moth to a flame. She hurried down, desperation propelling her forward. "Alex! Emma! Can you hear me?" She called out, her voice brittle against the oppressive silence. But deep within her, a gnawing fear knotted tightly. She might not find them at all. The staircase opened into a cavernous room, each wall lined with mirrors reflecting fragments of despair. In the center, a writhing mass of shadows swirled and pulsed, coalescing into shapes that flickered, as if taunting her memories. The room was alive, breathing with a life of its own, an abyss of malice. "Help us," the shadows whispered, voices swirling together, echoing with familiar tones that made her stomach twist. "Help us," they Alex and Emma. But their sounds were layered with pain and longing, weaving through the whispers like bait, beckoning her to step closer. "Mom!" Alex's voice cried again, this time clearer, bursting through the phantoms swirling around her. Fear ignited inside her, she had to reach them. But in an instant, the shadows shifted, darting toward her, eager to pierce her with despair. "Stay back!" she shouted, raising her arms as if to ward off their attack. Yet their laughter echoed, a cacophony of mockery that twisted her heart. "Surrender!" they bellowed, reaching for her with ghostly hands. "Embrace the darkness. You have lost so much already." "No!" Lisa screamed, her voice anchoring her to resolve. She wouldn't let the shadows consume her fear. With wild determination, she pushed through the swirling mass, resisting the pull of endless despair. She could almost see the silhouettes of her children trapped in one of the mirrors, mouths opening in horror but unable to scream. "Mom, please!" Emma's frail voice broke through the din, and Lisa stumbled forward, her feet steadying as her eyes locked onto the struggling images in the glass. Alex stood there, eyes wide, and reached out toward the wavy surface. "I can almost touch you." Desperation surged. "I'm coming!" she cried, lunging toward that mirror, ready to shatter whatever dark magic held them. The world around her began to reverberate with urgency, shadows shrieking, their faces squirming in frustration as she approached, but before she could reach the glass, the room jolted violently. The mirrors around her splintered, their fractal reflections twisting into a malevolence she had never known. A shadow leapt forward, catching her off guard. It entwined around her, cold fingers gripping her throat, an embrace of ice and fear. "Stop fighting. You belong to us." The dark figure hissed, its form wriggling like a serpent, with blood pounding in her ears. Lisa found new strength deep within her, a spark igniting in the depths of her heart. "No!" she roared, fighting against the grasp of darkness tightening around her. "You can't have us. I won't let you take my children." She swiveled, steadying her mind against the rage swirling around her. Drawing on every shred of hope and love she had for Alex and Emma, she reached deep within her, channeling warmth and light. "You don't own us," she shouted, the words bursting from her with a fierce veracity that echoed against the walls. The shadows wavered momentarily, their grip loosening. Lisa dashed forward again, body thrumming with energy, and with a resolute thrust, she slammed her hands against the surface of the mirror, the force reverberating. In that instant, the world exploded into light, blinding, searing light that shattered the darkness that had so eagerly consumed her. The light shimmered like a veil, cutting through the grotesque shadows as the whispers turned into shrieks of fury. The barrier between her and the trapped figures cracked, and with a final scream from those bound within, she felt her children's spirits break free. Mom! Alex screamed, his face breaking through the chaos, illuminating the fissures of the twisted space. Hold on! Lisa cried back, her heart swelling with a fierce determination. She could see their faces clearly now, their fear morphing into hope. With a second, thunderous push against the mirror, the barrier shattered like glass around them. Light burst forth, swirling wildly, an arc that enveloped not just Lisa but Alex and Emma as well. They were pulled back together, the shadows screeching and writhing, desperate to reclaim their prize. Together, we can't be broken. Lisa shouted, grabbing both their hands tightly. The warmth expanded, engulfing all of them, incinerating the dark presence with an insatiable glow as they propelled together toward the threshold. Suddenly, they were outside the village, breathing in the cold night air. The cursed house loomed in the distance, now a benign silhouette against the moonlit sky. In that moment, the laughter of the shadows faded into echoes, a memory that would never haunt them again. I was so scared, Emma sniffed, her little body trembling. I know, but we're together, Lisa assured, tears streaming down her face, her heart swelling with relief. They stood together, two strong girls beneath the endless stars, edging away from the weight of the darkness they had fought together. Lisa pulled her children close, wrapping warmth around them like a shield, hearts beating as one. Their home would be different now, strong against shadows that might stir, but they were free, tethered together forever, bound by love. Let us go home, Lisa whispered, weaving fingers through theirs as they made their way toward the distant light of the village. Epilogue. No more whispers from the shadows disturbed their evenings, no more shadows chasing at their heels. They rebuilt their lives, grateful and aware. And every now and then, on particularly quiet nights, they breathe in the night air, grateful not just for adventure but for their precious warmth against the cold frights that darkness can bring. And just like that, the cursed house became legend, a tale to warn others, the shadow beneath the village shadowed by their heart's light. So remember, dear friends, when darkness looms, let love guide your way. You need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of being part of this incredible journey.